Welcome to A Funny Thing Called Business. We are 4 business owners with over 30 years collective experience under our belts, sharing the capers and triumphs of running a small business and how we now avoid perilous customer chaos and pitfalls. I'm Clare Worley. We also have
Darren Langley,
Kate Curry,
Pete Morgan.
Fabulosa. Okay, so today we are continuing with our interview with series, and today we are interviewing Darren Langley. Darren Langley of Darren Langley Web Design, and I think it would be useful before we dive in, Darren, to give us a one-liner, succinct, of who you work with and what you do.
Oh, one line. Well, obviously we do web design because that's in the name, obviously. So that's an easy one. Creating effective online experiences to promote businesses, big, small. What's my saying? We work with
blue chips and fish and chip shops.
Yes, from blue chips to fish and chip shops, and from well-known brands to one-man bands.
Yeah.
That's the.
Yeah, we hear this every month. So
I know.
we should
Yeah,
know this.
I forget it, so I'm glad you remember. Yeah. So great fish and chips or something. We eat fish and chips and eat, blue chips.
How do you feel about being interviewed today?
Not great.
Good. Are you scared?
Yeah, very scared.
Okay.
I think we've talked about this, but I can't remember if we've actually addressed this directly. Did you ever consider naming the business something that wasn't your name?
Ooh, hot
Egotistic.
topic.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously. Well, I suppose the history of the name is that I started out as a freelancer, and freelancers didn't tend to necessarily use pseudonyms for their work. You'd work for as a contractor for agencies or maybe directly for clients. And it was just naturally, I'm just Darren Langley,
Yeah.
Just use that name.
Darren Langley.
And then as the business kind of grew and I did less work for other agencies and it was all direct clients, and then my business became a limited company, I didn't really stop to sort of think, well, I best change the name. In fact, probably the opposite of that. I was like, do I dare change the name?
Yeah.
People know me as Darren Langley. If I change it to, Pink Banana Creative, then... will people know who I am anymore?
The logo for Pink Banana Creative.
Yeah.
You've got to be careful with that one, haven't you?
Actually, yeah. Why did that come to mind?
Those are the questions we're going to be asking.
Uh-oh.
Who knows what's going to come out?
I'm going to have to reassess my brand choices because, I think, so it just kind of evolved like that, and I've never quite gotten around to changing it until maybe in the near future.
Really? Okay.
Have you got a deadline for this brand? Rebrand, I should say.
It's as soon as possible.
Okay.
There's lots of things to line up. But
2023.
When's 2023? Is that next year? Or the year after? No, just soon. Coming soon.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, coming soon.
I'm going to go straight in with a big question. So you're now managing people. What are you, 15 years into your business?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're now managing people. Was that part of your original plan to get to this point? And the second part is, how are you enjoying that side of the business?
Having people in the business wasn't really part of the plan. Again, I suppose it was more just trying to fill my own time with work and do everything on my own terms, really. When I left employment, I just wanted to kind of be a bit more in control of my time and who I worked with, and I had no kind of grand vision of becoming an agency or anything like that. As things evolved and progressed and there's more work going on, it's like, there's too much work to do on my own. I've had an employee in the past, and things like that, but it's just kind of grown and shrunk and grown without any real direction or thought going into it until I did some business coaching a few years ago. And, my longer term plan is kind of formulated, and a big part of that is having people in the team, having a team of people to kind of deliver and have different ideas and have different specialisms and do aspects of it, so that I can retire and
Put your feet up.
put feet up and let them do the work.
So how are you enjoying that side?
And
of
how am I
it?
enjoying it? Yeah, loving it.
Brilliant.
I mean, this has been
Brilliant.
a transitional year for the business as well, and transitional 6 months really, with office space growing and teams growing and a whole squad of people that are in the office that we really vibe with. Obviously, cohabiting with the current design studio, but yeah, it's a change of energy, and like the whole thing is just kind of really, really enjoyable
That's good.
and inspiring. Yeah.
So I want to know, Darren, like, what was your sort of situation at the time when you're like, I'm going to go and work for myself now, and what was it that tipped you over from being an employee to going it alone?
So back in the mid-noughties, when I was living in London and working for Sky, which I loved, it was great, brilliant job, brilliant company to work for.
Not many people can say that, can they, about their old companies? You know, brilliant company, great place to work.
Oh,
Not
God,
many people
there's
say
days I
that.
think, what did I leave for? That was stupid. And certainly when I look at my bank account, I think, what the hell did I leave for? But it was, it was great. But I'd been there for 8 years, and it was just kind of a friend of mine was also, he was working for himself, and I could see how his lifestyle, perhaps coming back to a little bit of having a bit more control over, your time and what you do and the people you're working for. I could kind of get, maybe it was a bit of a grass is greener on the other side type scenario, but I could see how he was doing that by working for himself and freelancing. And it kind of inspired me to want to do that, combined with the fact that I did want to leave London. I wanted to come back to my Brummie roots, ultimately. So it was kind of like, well, I can just go back to Birmingham, do my own thing, start my own business, or I can get a job. And at the point that I left Sky and left London, it was like, it seems a bit too much to relocate to a whole other city and start a business from scratch with no clients or anything like that. It was a bit like, well, that's just a bit too much of a leap of faith. So I took a job with an agency, and I've learned a lot in that job. It got me, because before Sky I'd worked at agencies before, but I think what I learned in that agency when I left London was getting back into being agency side and doing work for clients and managing timelines and costs, and there was no budgets really at Sky. It was all sort of pretend, you're just doing stuff internally. So that just reminded me of all the practical aspects of running a business. And then I felt a bit more confident after a year or whatever it was to think, well, yeah, I can do this for myself. And so now is a good time for me to take the second step on my journey and work for myself. So that's what I did. And I had no ties, had no wives.
Oh, the good old days.
Yeah, the wives came later. No,
Plural.
Plural, yeah.
Does your current wife know about this plural?
No. So yeah, this was before I was married and before no kids and no mortgage and no. I think a car loan was the only actual commitment that I had. So it's kind of, well, yeah. I mean, if I look at it now, if I could do it now with the commitments that you've got, it'd be really hard. But
Harder,
yeah, much harder. Yeah. Not impossible, but harder. Yeah.
I love all the kind of steps that fall into place to kind of lead you to somewhere, and sometimes it can be like, things feel like they're going wrong or off track, but I firmly believe that everything falls in place at the right time for the right reasons, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of that, although I didn't really sort of getting a bit philosophical or whatever, but I didn't really believe at the time in this kind of notion of asking the universe and putting your sort of thoughts out there and kind of receiving things. But I kind of got into that somewhat later on. But I think that's what I was doing. It's like I had this plan, had this vision of where my life was going to go to at that stage when I was looking to leave London, and those things just kind of, like you say, just sort of fell into place because
you've had a kind of plan.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Nice.
We were talking when we interviewed Kate. We talked about tools and things that have come about that
Oh, God, you're not
Make-
getting him onto Trello, are you?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, go on.
No, we're not going there. I'm not even going to say that word.
That's the special extended edition of
Exactly.
the podcast.
I almost bought a Trello t-shirt earlier. Yeah, go on.
It was more, Kate was talking about the C word when it came to design, and how when the app that begins with C that apparently was going to rid the world of graphic designers came about. Now, obviously, there's quite a few
Yeah, the beginning
sites.
S and W. Yeah,
Exactly,
Yeah,
are the two
yeah.
that I'm thinking of. What is it that people don't understand about building a good website?
Yeah, I think if we can remember back to Kate's episode, I think what she talked about was about tools, and I think I've always thought that things like Wix and Squarespace and Shudder, these sorts of things, they're just tools, and I use tools to create websites. Of course, we all use tools in our jobs, and they're tools. And just because they might be slightly easier to use, or you can click on a few things and something happens that makes you think, oh, that's cool, that's the right thing to do, but it's not. It's the thought that goes into, why do I do this here? What's the purpose of that? How does someone... And for me, I think web design has become a lot more psychological, and I'm really interested in that side of web design. How people think when they see a page, what are they drawn to, what actions do you want them to take, and how do you kind of manipulate them a little bit, in a sense, to go on the journey that you want them to go on through the website, to get to the point where you really want them to get to, where they then can potentially become a client, or they buy something, or whatever the actual goal of the website is. And I think, you can click a few buttons or use a bit of AI, and because that's the next thing which we've spoken about previously, AI to create websites. There's tools that are out there that kind of do that, but they do it very badly, fortunately. But also, again, they're tools, and if you don't know what you're doing with them, then an analogy that I used to use actually was, I could go out, just like someone could go on to Wix and build a website. I could go out and buy a load of bricks from a builder's merchant and have a go at building a house. I could pile the big bricks on top of each other, no problem. But is that house going to fall down as soon as I open the front door? Of course it is. I don't know what I'm doing with them.
Yeah.
That is such good advice to give to people about the psychology of a website, and how users go through, like, customer journey, and like Kate talked about in her interview about the emotions that people want to feel, want their audience to feel. That's what a lot of business owners don't think about when they start up. Oh, I can do my own logo, and I can create my own website. I don't need people, but we do need these specialisms. Otherwise, it does just fall down, and it probably falls down. It takes 2 years for it to fall down. It's just slowly crumbling, and then businesses get 2 years and they're like, oh my God, I've hardly earned anything. I've been stressed. I've worked way more than I ever worked in a job, and just bring the experts in.
Well, that's true. That's true in every aspect, isn't it? I mean, like, I started my business, and Kate said the same thing, start the business without taking any kind of advice, any coaching or anything like that, and just kind of wing it almost. And the difference between that and having actually sort of sat down with a coach and gone through that process, it's night and day. It's and it's the same with web design, same with branding. If businesses treat it like a tick box, all right, we need a logo tick, we need a website tick, they're not really looking at the benefits of what they're getting there, or whether it's even the right thing.
Yeah, agreed.
I think it's important, really, actually, for people to drop a few clangers so that you know what good feels like.
Yes.
And you've got something to compare it to. So when I very first started out, I was the Squarespace person that sends you into a meltdown.
Yes,
but because I did that, and I got wound up by it, and it's like, this isn't doing what I want it to, and I just it was really rubbish. And it's only when I got it done properly, I'm just like, finally, this really gives the professional, look that I really need it to.
Well, that's one of the things I hear a lot from potential, or from people coming to us for websites is, or when I'm networking or whatever, I quite often hear a phrase which is, I'm embarrassed by my website, or I don't tell anybody about it. Oh, I've got a website, but I know I'll never tell anyone about it.
Yeah.
Well, that's just terrible. Why wouldn't you have a website that you're proud of, that you want to shout about? And moreover, what damage is it doing if people do find that website and they look at it and they go, oh gosh, these guys are amateurs. They don't know what they're doing. I think I have this strong belief that websites can work for you really well, but they can equally work against you. So a bad website is just going to put people off. that could have potentially been, if you didn't have a website at all, maybe they'd have at least given you a call and you could have had a shot at them, whereas the website has actually turned them away, sort of thing. So
Yeah, agreed.
I've got a question off the back of that, actually.
good.
So what for you are the biggest webby no-nos that you see over and over again? And
Yeah, what makes you
Right,
get really
okay.
angry behind your laptop?
let's see. How long have we got now? Let's see. All right.
It's gonna be longer than the trailer.
That's why she just said 3.
Oh, let's start at the top of the page, shall we? So, where to start? I think one of the things that's bugging me a lot lately is when you're on a desktop computer and you get the little burger mobile menu style icon in the top corner that you have to click on to then actually see the navigation. So when you're on a mobile phone, we all see the little 3 lines, little burger menu.
Oh, yeah.
Click on that.
I didn't know
the
that was
menu
called the
pops up.
burger
It's called-
menu.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
it looks like a burger.
Yeah,
I
I
guess.
get it now.
Not a very nice burger, a bit flat. But then people using that on their desktop websites, to me, it's a no-no because you're expecting the user to take an action before they even see what the options are
Yes.
of the actions that you want them to take.
And we're very lazy, aren't we, as
Yeah,
users?
Web users are incredibly fickle. If you don't put everything right in front, or the right things in front of them at the right time, you lose them very quickly because everyone, all your competitors are just a Google search away. So that burger menu thing, the reason that it exists in the first place is for people on mobile phones because there's not much real estate to put all of the navigation on the screen. So as a sort of solution, not necessarily a great solution, you have this burger menu that hides the options. But then to go and say, oh, well, let's do that on the desktop as well, I just think I don't quite understand the logic behind that. So that's number one. I'll only give you 2. The other one that really peeves me is when you see at the bottom of the page. So we've started at the top, but at the bottom of the page where you have the copyright notice usually, and it says copyright 2019 or something like that on there. And you're looking at, well, but we're in 2023. There's very simple ways to keep that updated. And yeah, yours is fine.
Okay,
yours
fine,
is fine.
fine. Okay,
Yep.
fine.
So it automatically updates with the year. Because, I mean, it's one of those
Okay.
things that if someone sees it, okay, it's a minor thing. Who's necessarily going to see it? I don't know. But what if your next big client sees that and it says 2019? And they think, but it's 2023.
Yeah.
Are these guys still in business?
Yeah.
Is this information up to date? Is that going to be one of the triggers that puts them off?
Yeah, agree. I don't think I'd notice the copyright thing, but I do notice on people's website if the last blog was, if it was
Yeah,
2019, I'd be
definitely.
like, done, move on.
Yeah,
They're not updating or keeping the website fresh.
absolutely. Yeah.
Seems crazy to me. Go on, give us your next one. Give us your top 3.
Okay, so that was 2.
How do you feel about pop-ups?
Oh, right, okay.
Oh, trigger word.
Well, I mean, I have used pop-ups in the past, I have to confess, but no, they're also bad for usability, especially pop-ups
Okay,
that
get
launch.
rid of pop-ups.
Yeah. Pop-ups that launch when you open the page before you've even looked at the thing.
So
Yeah.
can I help? And you're
Yeah.
like,
And
right,
this-
Chill out.
Yeah. It's become something that's really synonymous with e-commerce sites, and it's because
Yeah.
a lot of e-commerce sites are using platforms like Shopify or whatever that are, again, these kind of tools, but not necessarily the rules of how to do good web design. And they come out with this pop-up option where as soon as you launch the website, it offers you 10% off or join our mailing list for a savings. Like, I haven't even looked at your stuff yet, whether it's something I'm even interested
Yeah.
in. Haven't checked you out. Well, are you even in my country? So, and you're asking me to commit to giving you my data. It's like, no, I ain't doing that. So that's a big no-no. We'll leave it there.
Okay. How do you feel about chat boxes? Because, I mean, I'm just thinking about, big companies like O2 and your banks and, it's good. Sometimes the chats are really good. What do you think about those chat boxes for smaller businesses?
Yeah, I think they're good if they're done correctly.
Yeah.
Like most things.
At the right time in the customer journey.
Well,
kind of
yeah. I
thing.
mean, if they're not too intrusive, I think people are starting to see them on more and more. So it becomes one of those areas where people on the screen look for if they're interested in, if that's the way they want to communicate. One of my things about websites is really you should give the user the option of how they want to contact you. Don't sort of force them down one route. if you can manage it in the back end, from your business perspective, you can actually support different methods of contact, so phone numbers or web forms or chatbots or whatever it might be, or Instagram or Facebook, whatever the option is. There's many options that you can give them so that they can use their preferred method of contact, the better. And if someone's going around and they have the opportunity for a live chat, provided it's well managed, and AI is becoming a big thing for chatbots, so they're actually not necessarily live chat, but surprisingly works well if done correctly, and can be really effective. So yeah, they're not a bad thing. But I don't like it when they sort of go ping in the bottom corner.
Yeah.
Give it a little sound. It's like, yes, okay, thanks. I'll find you if I want you.
Okay, yeah.
Is there like a trend when it comes to the look of a website? And if there is that something that you try and guide your clients towards, or is it just, listen, the client wants what the client wants?
Yeah, I mean, there definitely are trends. We had a trend of having like big hero images, and now the trend is on the homepage. So when you go onto a homepage, you get one big image with some text over it, and that's kind of changing now. There's a trend towards that. So in terms of advising clients, it depends on the trend, because whilst that's not a bad thing, other trends like using burger menus when you should have the navigation there is not necessarily a good trend. So it's sort of qualifying it. Is it something you actually want to use? And there are, I think, a lot of fundamental elements of websites that underpin the usability of them that is basically consistent throughout. Stuff that probably was developed very early in the web that still stands true. And if you follow those certain conventions, your web users are going to actually be able to quite easily, intuitively navigate your website without sort of resorting to lots of bells and whistles.
That's interesting, isn't it? So, the fundamentals have remained the same over years, and there will always be these little trends that come and go, and it's about picking through them. And
some are good. Some are definitely good trends and positive improvements. Others, like having really long home pages, is something that, and even one-page websites, where all the content's on one page. There was a big trend for that. I think it's starting to die out a bit.
Yeah, good.
And largely because it's not very good from a user's perspective to sort the whole page themselves.
It's obvious, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by Lexicon, a copywriting agency that will make your marketing ooze with personality. Ready to ditch the corporate BS and stand out from your competitors? Lexicon will craft words that make your personality pop off the page. Grab your ideal customer by the eyeballs and persuade them to do business. Book a free amp-up session for clarity on how to make your marketing work harder. Visit lexicon.co.uk or follow Anita Ellis on LinkedIn. So what's the weirdest website request that has come your way in the 15 years?
Let's see. Weirdest. I had this business coach on my website. I mean, I've been asked to do adult websites in the past.
Have you?
Yeah, which it is beyond my morals, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'm, too.
So is that how you turn it down? It's just not my kind of.
Well, I mean,
not my kind of work.
Your wives might not be very happy.
The wives weren't happy. Well, actually, I had a phone call and I was out I think I was actually at lunch with my wife before she was my wife, and it was a guy. Oh, I'm a plumber and I need a website for my plumbing business. Okay, perfect, good, great, we can do that. Oh, and also I've got a couple of girls. Sorry, what?
Say what now?
Also, I need a website for that. It's like, so in what sense? Like I've got live cams for these girls. And
oh, Jesus Christ!
Hey.
Like an OnlyFans thing.
Well, back in the day, it was all
No, not OnlyFans. It's more like, I've said too much.
It's not back in the day.
Yeah,
it's very current.
Well, yes, yeah. So it's a bit like, I'm not sure that's going to kind of work out.
Where were these girls? I would need to be asking more information. Were they held somewhere beyond?
Quite possibly. But who goes around with the plumbing business on one side of the?
I don't.
And then respect. No, this is a phone call out the blue, and you're already telling me that you're running some.
I know that's some sort of side hustle that
Yeah.
is a big no.
So anyway, then I went and set up my own webcam site. So I made all the money, and
Yeah, excellent.
I didn't have to hire any girls because I just did it all myself. So we can edit that bit out.
Oh no, that stays in.
We can.
The URL will be in the show notes.
Yeah, that's why he's rebranding the company, because it's Darren Langley Webcams.
Yeah.
That's going to be the new one. Doesn't want to dilute the audience.
I've got a question, just to fire back at you, really, about superpowers. So, what would you say would be your superpower? So, if you could be something man, and you can't be Spider-Man, with the webs.
Oh yeah, clever.
Yeah.
I didn't get that.
Well, if you recall back in a couple of years ago, we spoke about
Oh yeah.
dressing up as Spider-Man for a.
Indeed, yes.
I believe there was a catchphrase of some sort that
Was there?
to do with blancmange.
Blancmange in a bin bag.
Yeah, I believe there was. Yeah, that.
I can only apologise.
In terms of being, I think. Let's see, usability man. I could be like. I could be.
I'm not sure that's going to catch on.
Here's Batman. Here's Superman. Here's usability man, navigating your way through websites.
Does usability man just like point to things and like?
Yeah.
It's like you don't need me. This website is intuitive, and you can do it yourself. So that's my superpower.
What would the outfit be to go alongside it?
It would be something very practical.
Yes.
A pink banana.
No bananas, Kate.
Oh dear. I was worried too much would come out when I was.
No, I think you've been very reserved.
I think.
So, what's been the best website that you've worked on, and why?
Ooh, there's been loads of really great ones that I've loved. I mean, I rattle on a lot about the Ritz when I designed that website a few years back, largely because it was a really interesting client, really interesting project, and getting to stay at the Ritz and drink.
Was it just for the, the perks? Is that why you liked it? The afternoon tea?
Well, I mean, it was one of those opportunities that came along. It's like, we'll just see what happens. And it was myself and another company that had teamed up. They were on the development side, and I was going to be doing all the design and usability side.
Usability man.
Exactly.
This calls for
usability man at the Ritz.
Well, usability man wouldn't have been allowed in the Ritz because at least the jacket.
You do have to wear a jacket.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's true.
Yeah. I mean, it was the whole experience, and also that originally they wanted to do something that was a bit different from everyone else. And
does that not drive it when people say we just want something different?
Yeah.
God, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Well, different is usually a bad thing. So unless you're Nike or something like that, where your website can be an experience.
Yeah, but that's the Ritz, isn't it?
Yeah. So we were going to do something where I was going to put my sort of creative hat on, do something different, but it be usable and user friendly. So I came up with some really good ideas, and in the end, it was one of those projects where things did get watered down, and even though I really was pleased with what we came up with, it wasn't the concept that I had at the beginning that I was really excited about.
What, were they too scared? Because it was too big a change.
Potentially,
Yeah,
potentially maybe. But that was like they were like pushing me. Yeah, look at these websites from around the world, different hotels, and they're doing some really interesting things. And I came up with a few different ideas of angles for the website that would have really been another stage on. But even so, it was a brilliant project, brilliant experience.
and it's a nice one to have on your portfolio,
Yeah,
isn't
absolutely. But there's been lots. I mean, even when I was working for Sky, did loads of really good projects there. And then also at the other end of the spectrum, there are certain websites for smaller clients that I always tell potential clients about, because I'm just like, I know if they see that, they'll really like it because it's a really nice website.
it? Oh yeah, which ones do you showcase? Us in the room.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. No.
Darren, do you showcase our websites?
Of course I do. Yes, of course I do. But that's not what I'm talking about. No. So yes, but the websites that I'm really pleased with, and I think that I'm proud of as well, because I'm always about clients having a website they're proud of, so they're not embarrassed by it and not ashamed to tell about it. But it's the same for me as well. I want to be proud of it too. So, that's a big driver.
Excellent.
What's your website like?
Rubbish.
Oh, yeah, great question. It's not.
This is. Good. I am the plumber with the leaky tap at home.
Oh,
Not
Darren.
the plumber with the 2 girls.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
Sorry, that really threw you then, didn't it?
What was I talking about?
I thought you got a good website.
No. My website is just. It's not bad. It's just out of date, and I am actually working on. Obviously, I'm working on a couple of versions of a new website. So
with the new brand.
One will be the new brand. One is an interim, but it's just not been kind of updated in a little while, and that's obviously a bit of a no. Not in terms of content, but just in terms of changing the style of the website to reflect the business and how that's changed. So yeah, it's taken me a bit longer than I'd advise people to take to refresh their websites.
So what advice would you give then to business owners? Because, I'm a huge believer in, keeping it fresh and always updating for SEO and to keep Google happy. What's the advice you would give to how businesses can proactively keep it fresh?
From a content perspective, having blogs, case studies, that sort of content that's updated, FAQs as well. I mean, I think FAQs are a really useful tool to have, or a section to have on a website, and it's an opportunity to update that with new questions and changes that come through your business, so you can kind of tackle things before the client has to get in touch with you. So keeping the content up to date is a biggie, and it's one of the hardest things, of course, because most business owners don't have the time to do that. So do they?
That's a dirty sentence to me.
Most business owners would claim they don't have the time to do that.
Yes, that's a part.
When really they just need a process and a plan.
They do.
And a bit of organisation.
Carve out.
I think I dodged that one. But then from a design and sort of a technology point of view, it's also important to review the website every 4 years, something like that, give or take.
Really? 4 years?
Maybe 5 years. I mean, I'm working on a project at the moment with a client where the website is about 5 or 6 years old, and it's starting to creak a little bit, and there's just things that we do now that we didn't do then,
right?
Which we think if we could do it the way we do it now, it would make life so much easier. It'd be easier to adapt, and things would be faster, and all of the different elements of how the industry's moved on, and then how websites chop and change every year in terms of what the standards are. So
okay, so let's ask you one final question. There is somebody out there who wants to become a web designer. What's the one piece of killer advice you would give them that would help them get started?
So I'm trying to think of a funny response about it.
Sensible will do.
Okay. Was the one piece of killer advice? I mean, I would say it comes back to having a good plan, maybe, and processes for how you're going to actually deliver. Look at what it is you're offering. Don't offer anything to everyone. Think about who your audience is. Think about what you're offering.
Now that's a lot of advice.
What's the
one killer?
What's the one killer one? Take the adult websites when they come your way. That's going to make you a lot of money. Don't be so sort of shy about it.
Don't be such a prude.
Yeah, exactly. And also make sure you're working with the right partners and suppliers. So, you're using the right tools, web hosts, all of those kind of things.
Yeah.
It's hard to get that right without, again, sort of
trial
failing. And so, but yeah. And also just probably double check your sanity. That's the other thing. Do you really want to do that? What do you want to do that for? It's crazy.
Are you happy with your business now?
Yeah, I've always been happy with it. I mean, there's been times.
Oh, yeah, I think we all go through that, don't we?
Yeah, ultimately, I still feel proud of what I'm doing, and I still have a love for the web, and long may it continue until AI takes over.
Takes over the world. Brilliant. Thanks, Darren. That's been really interesting to get to know you a little bit more and your thought processes behind it all. And I'm all for usability, man. So for our lovely listeners, please share, subscribe and review so our fellow business owners can enjoy, be inspired and always keep focused on the fun side of business too.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.